Alrighty, we got to get one more in here, the Mothership Facebook group, before we are officially off the ground here and rolling with another episode of Broncos for Breakfast. There we go. Welcome in, everybody. It is time for another episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am your host, Nick Kendell, along with my co-host, Scott Kennedy. Scott, welcome back-to-back days. How you doing?
Good. It's a busy time. I think this might be a harbinger. Is that the right word? Did I use that right? Of things to come, where maybe during the season we're going multiple days instead of just Tuesdays and Thursdays. So,
yeah,
it's good. It's a busy time. We came in on Wednesday, the day after that the initial 53s were released. But as we all know, and as every general manager and coach in the league said, these are initial. These are fluid. Don't unpack your bags. So we've seen some moves already.
Yeah, we said, was it Jonathan Harris? I'm like, this one's surprising. I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the first people off the roster when moves are being made. I guess a little bit surprised with Royce Freeman, but here we are.
Yeah, and we can get into that a little bit. It wasn't so much the surprise that Royce. We were a little surprised that he made it, but then to replace him with another running back whose resume isn't as good was a little odd to me. But we'll hit on that here in a little bit. Let's get moving.
For sure. Let's say hello to everybody in the chat here first. Hello, anybody home? Yes, JD. It seems like people are home. US Dave is still snoring, so that's good. Mike Gibbons in the house. Good morning. Good to see you. We got Mike Lindman in the house as well. Mark Lindmode, excuse me. Go Broncos. EJ's in the house. Good morning, Nick and Scott, and go Broncos. Mark's saying I have 7 dogs and they are eagerly awaiting the show.
That's the one that made me smile when we first signed on.
There we go. I appreciate that one. My dog's sitting here in the kennel next to me. He's a good boy, mostly. He's too much, but so am I. Jeremy Sean coming in here. Good morning. US Dave also saying 61 seconds is all it takes from the 9 to 5 man to be more than 1 minute late. Were we late? Or were we right on time? I don't know. We're always late.
We may have been close. It was close. I know I logged in at about 27 after because I was eagerly hitting publish and sending that stuff out. So it was a little frantic for me, but you were here.
Yeah, no, and we had to do a little bit of a, hey, how you doing? This is what we're doing. All right, let's go. US Dave also saying Buenos Dias. Mark's still in here. Jeremy Sean back to back like 97, 98. We got Vic in the house saying Houston checking in. Vinny J's also here saying, gentlemen, good morning, Broncos country. Matt Productions in the house saying good morning, Mile High. Good morning to you. Dave Glassman in the house with the hearts, as always. And Travis Weber. Good morning, guys. Nick and Scott, enjoy your shows. Go Broncos. And Victor coming in here saying morning, guys. So good morning. A lot of familiar faces, some new faces as well, but a lot of familiar faces. Welcome in, guys. Like I said, this is Broncos for Breakfast. You can catch Scott and I on Twitter, Scott at Scout Kennedy, and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. You can also follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle. If you guys are joining us on Facebook today, please, first off, click the thumbs up, click a heart react. We got a wow react coming in from Victor Rios, Gary Leeds Palmer with the heart, and some likes from Mark Knack, Travis Weber, Jim Hamilton, and DeAndre Witherspoon. So make sure you guys click the thumbs up and like the video. YouTube, Facebook, like this video, helps us a heck of a lot. And while you guys are over on Facebook, make sure you also join us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. If you guys are joining us on YouTube today, speaking of those YouTube people just a second ago, make sure you subscribe, like, and share. That helps us a lot. And we can make sure we can compete in this high quality, very competitive market that's covering the Denver Broncos in this internet sphere. While you guys are over on YouTube, also make sure you head on over to Scott's channel at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. He's been pulling clips from these shows, putting them up there, and a lot of older content as well, because obviously people are getting roster claimed or undrafted free agents are making rosters. So some bits that you've done in the past are starting to get a resurface, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So anything planned right now, or how are we doing on the count?
It's we're about 860, so we're about 140 off, which is good, and keep going. And a lot of the folks here have already subscribed, so tell a friend, because I feel like we're fishing in the same pond every so often, because this has been a very supportive group. If you're new to the show, hit that link that Nick will put up here at some time during the show. That's a big help.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's see if anybody else has come in the comments. Since then, we got Vindy saying he's glad to talk some football.
I've just been reading about dogs, and Mr. Lindemood, if we can, Great Pyrenees, Pomeranian, Husky, a Chocolate Lab, and 3 Border Collies, if we can give you even a moment of peace with that mixture of dogs while they listen to this show, my job is done here. That's quite a mix. One border collie is a handful. They're good dogs, but they're. I hope you've got a lot of space.
Yeah, they're smart, but they're needy. Throw me that ball, goddammit. Vinny J's in the house. Mark also has a husky, so there we go.
I follow two huskies on Instagram. I can't help it. The talking huskies are a riot.
There are a lot of huskies in Seattle because University of Washington Huskies. So see them.
Good weather for them. Down here in the South, not so much.
No, Summit. My dog Summit is the same way. He does not like the heat. He will just lay on all four and say, "You know what? I'm not walking anymore." Well, we have Jeremy Sean coming in saying, was Harris someone they tried to sneak into the practice squad by keeping him an extra day? Possibly. I think Harris can still be in waivers, so that probably hasn't completely. I don't think he's been claimed yet from what I've seen. So definitely possible. Chase Wellner in the house saying, yesterday I drafted Judy in the 8th round, and my final pick was the Denver defense. Biased. No, that's a good job. That's a good job picking a couple Bronco players there. Those are ones that I would be looking at.
And Judy in the 8th round is good value.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially second-year wide receiver. I always draft rookie running backs at the end, and I draft second-year wide receivers. That's strategy for me. DeAndre Witherspoon, good morning, guys. I think this team can make the playoffs with the roster that they have. Solid and efficient QB play and defense and running game and adequate special teams. What do you think? How many games do you think they win? Go Broncos. There's a lot to answer here. I definitely think the Broncos can make the playoffs with how they are built. I don't think it's a viable long-term strategy for winning. I mean, running the football well and playing good defense will always win, but it's not a sustainable strategy to have an amazing running game and a great defense year after year in the NFL level, given how much year-to-year sustainability, is that the word I'm looking for? Quarterback play is the most stable thing. Stability. So you're not going to.
Well, that's where people put their money in. It's a lot easier to put $20 million into one quarterback than it is to try and filter that across 6 or 7 key players on your defense. Those guys are going to get picked apart once they start having some success. Free agency is going to start taking your toll on some of your key players on defense.
Yep. Or your defense's coaches, or you're going to have lower draft picks, et cetera, et cetera. People are going to be start trying to copy your scheme, Vic Fangio. So stuff like that. But it's not sustainable year after year. But it is something that can win with this Broncos team right now. How many games do I think the Broncos can win? I think the Broncos are going to win anywhere from, this is a wide range, but I think 7 to 11 wins is definitely possible. They're a team that's right on the precipice of 500. A lot has to go their way. They need to stay healthy. I need to see this defense live in action. I need to see what Vaughn and Chubb look like together in like real games. And I need to see just how much competent, not great, but competent quarterback can change the identity of the offense. So I said at the beginning of the season, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to say 9 wins right now. I don't know if that's down. I think I was at 9.
I think you were at 10 because I think I was at 11.
I remember 9. I don't know. I remember 9. 9.
But put that up again real quick because I wanted to answer this because these are the things we're counting on, right? Efficient QB play, not spectacular QB play. Efficient, good defense and a running game, adequate special teams. I think that gets you 10 or 11 wins. But all of those things have to happen. Plus, you got to stay healthy. You got to have a little luck. Any good run for a team coming back from where the Broncos had the worst luck last year. Hopefully they get all that out of the way and come back with a little bit of luck with health this year on your key players. And you're looking at 10 or 11 wins and a run in the playoffs. And with all of those components, defense, running game, efficiency, special teams, if all those components are clicking, you're a dangerous out in the playoffs.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, you can beat anybody with that, but we're talking one season there. So you're right. We got Kayleon Green in the house saying, yo, good to see you. And Mark also saying the border collies are a handful. So that's good. Matt has a pit bull and a Rottweiler. I'm not. Those
Rottweiler mix. Rottweiler
mix. Those
I'm a big fan of a good mutt. I keep getting German Shepherd mixes. I've had one mixed with a lab and then one mixed with a smooth coat collie. That's the one I have now. I'd never heard of a smooth coat collie until I got this dog. And someone said, that looks like a smooth coat collie. I'm like, you know what? Yes, he does. Anyway.
Mark says his dogs are rescues and they get a lot of love from his wife. So great for you guys. Casey just retired. Shocker. Adrell Casey. That injury must have been pretty serious. Also, that's kind of how it goes with some of these guys. You get that one injury and it's like poof. The game leaves you behind. We kind of saw it with Ryan Clady. He was top of his game, Pro Bowl, All Pro, looking like he could be a Hall of Famer. Had that Liz Frank injury, and boom, no more. So that's Yeah, that's one of those things. You want to appreciate a player in the moment because one injury could really, that could be it for them. So, carpe diem if you want to, or live in the moment, whatever you want to say, whatever cliche you want to say, but that's really true. Travis coming in saying
another one is get your money while you can. Never begrudge a player holding out. Not ever. Not with non-guaranteed. The guaranteed contract have changed some of that for the rookies, but otherwise, for a lot of these guys, a 3-year contract is basically a 1-year deal with 2 club options. So if a guy overplays that, and he needs to make sure that he takes care of himself, support him for that. I don't want to hear any of this BS from coaches. Well, he's got a contract. You just waive 15 guys with contracts, you hypocrite. Yeah. So, support the guys when they're looking out for themselves, because the league won't.
Billionaires paying millionaires, right? If you're going to be angry, look up. Gary Neighbors, go Broncos #1. Thank you, Gary. We got Trevor Sandel coming in here saying, good morning, fellas. Love the podcast. Let them hate. I love that he's adopted the people who are very supportive of Drew Lock. That's the word I'll use. They had, they had let them hate, but instead of the 5s, they had the 3s. So I appreciate the adaptation there of that.
What was the new one I saw last night in Mile High Huddle chat? Ted them hate.
Ted them hate. Okay. Better off Ted. How about that? There we go. I see 53 becoming a Hulk, getting his jersey early. Y'all think? And he's talking about one of my stock up players there, I believe, in Jonathan Cooper, sticking out in my head with 53. Maybe, man, I'm always very skeptical of getting players' jerseys early, because I like to stick with the classics, because I feel like trades happen a lot and things happen, unless you have a guy who's a no doubt like stud pretty early, pretty quickly. So like right now, if you wanted to get the maximum value out of a jersey, I think the one to lean into would be Patrick Surtain with the 2, because you're going to have him for 5 years. I know he hasn't even played a game yet, but he looks like an incredible foundational piece.
Well, it's tough because when they're young, they might be somewhere else by the time you're ready. You're wearing that jersey, and they ended up playing someplace else. I think the last jersey with a name on it I bought for my son was Jason Hayward. And he was a St. Louis Cardinal 2 years later.
Yeah, go Cards. That's my team.
Just go with the badge. Just make sure, in this case, root for the name on the front. Forget the name on the back.
There you go. Mark Lindemood in an interesting comment here. I want to get into stopping the run game is a concern I have. Barkley from the Giants could run all over us. Well, Barkley is probably the most talented running back in football when he's healthy. I mean, you can make an argument for Christian McCaffrey or Derrick Henry as well. Totally opposite ends of the spectrum. You have Barkley kind of in the middle of that. But it is a concern for me as well. However, you guys, if you've heard me on this show many times, I need to start being careful about what I say about running backs, because Monty Ball just followed me on Twitter yesterday. But running games and running back success. I know. Yeah. Well, shout out to Monty. I mean, he's had a pretty tough journey, because he's followed his path to sobriety, which has kind of changed his life. So we had a few back and forths about my Hawkeyes and his Badgers yesterday. So it was a good time. But I've always said on here, and I truly do believe it, that most running backs will get what's blocked for them. Now, Barkley is a special talent who can do beyond that. But the Giants' offensive line looks woeful, terrible, bad, whatever superlatives you want to use. They're not good. So while Barkley might be able to get a big run, I don't think he's going to find success easily, because I think the Broncos' defensive line is going to engulf that Giants' offensive line. Also, the Broncos, while they don't have great speed at linebacker, Josie Jewell and Alexander Johnson are very good against the run. So as long as you keep Barkley from breaking out massive runs, I think you should be okay. What do you think here?
I think run all over us is tough. The 3-4 is predicated on funneling the action into your linebackers. So you don't necessarily need spectacular linebackers. You need steady linebackers, blue collar guys that can do their jobs. Mm-hmm. That's good, right? So like we mentioned, the game I saw against the Rams, the front 4, because they're usually rushing 4 and dropping one of the outside linebackers into coverage, the front 4 was getting a massive push, but that was leaving a gap that was being able to be exploited by screens. And if an idiot like me can see that, then I promise you the defensive coordinators can figure that out and make adjustments. Maybe not go, pin your ears back and go after the quarterback on every play. You're not going to be facing, while Daniel Jones is no world beater, he's probably better than Bryce Perkins, who you can go after and flush a little bit. So I don't see anybody running all over this defense. I think it's too good from back to front. Your two inside linebackers are the only ones that really where you don't necessarily have star quality, and you don't need it. You don't need star quality inside linebackers for this defense to be good. Everywhere else, you're not just good, you're deep. There's multiple players at those positions. So I don't see anybody running all over this defense, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And if it does happen, they'll have to adjust. We saw it 2 years ago with this Broncos team. They were getting gashed in the run game with Shelby Harris at nose, and they made an adjustment, kicking Shelby Harris over, changing one of the linebackers. I believe that's when Alexander Johnson came in, and Mike Purcell at nose. So you'll have to adjust. But definitely, I think game plan number one has to be, don't let Barkley beat you, because he's a phenomenal talent. Not the name drop again, or I guess not name drop, but I was at the Penn State Iowa game when Barkley was there, and he didn't run for anything beyond 10 yards a carry, but he still averaged like 5 yards a carry. And
which is gonna beat you. Second and fives are gold.
Yep.
Second and fives are, even if you're third and twos, short yardage situations are how you get beat. There's just a world of difference between 3rd and 2 and 3rd and 7.
Yeah. I've never seen an individual player dominate like he did in that game. Just incredible talent. I'm not a proponent of taking a running back in the top 20 in any draft.
College is a different game.
Yes,
college is a different game. I had this discussion when I was director of scouting at Scout about why is Leonard Fournette the number 1 overall player when they have devalued running backs in NFL. I'm like, well, 1, Leonard Fournette's special. 2, the game's different in college. They still rely on those guys. If the best player on the field is a running back, you're going to be a pretty good offense. Because he can dictate more in college than he can in the NFL. So it's a different game.
Also, the shelf life argument goes out the window, right? Like you're in your prime right there, right? Like then those coaches, some of them.
Which also brings up the argument, why do you have to sit out 3? Why do you have to be 3 years removed from your high school career? There's running backs that are ready to play much earlier than that, and frankly, it would be better for them, health wise, long term wise, financially, for some of these guys to be able to play earlier, and then that's up to. That's up to the teams. I mean, would you rather be making, I think I saw it was about $6,000 a month for a practice squad player. Would you rather be, of course, that might be a pay cut for some of these guys in college, but, would you rather be making, $70,000, $80,000 on a practice squad, or, going through the charade of being a student athlete?
Yeah, no, I feel you there. And I shout out to, thoughts and prayers, I guess, even to Travis Etienne. Could have come out his junior year, probably been a first-round pick, loses a year of getting paid, and then has the terrible injury, I think Achilles. So that's why you worry about it. And God bless you, Scott. Somebody teach your dog.
I think Ian Rappaport said a foot injury that was 4 months recovery time.
Okay.
Which is good. And I just inhaled my coffee. I'm not even drinking anymore. I'm just inhaling it. Pretty soon it's going to be with a syringe or an IV.
There we go.
But I said it was a foot injury, 4-month recovery time, which theoretically could put you back end of December. But the way Rappaport reported it was plenty of time to be back for next year. So I think he's done.
Yeah, that sounds like it. We got Mark Anthony coming in here talking about a lot of dog show today. Good morning, you early morning monsters. I think the potential for this team is high, and I am beginning to get excited. There we go. That's what you want to hear. That being said, I promised myself I wouldn't believe it till I see it. Mark, you sound like somebody who's been hurt one too many times. I think this is a team that it depends on what your expectations are. Like, are your expectations meaningful football beyond Thanksgiving? I think that's a pretty reasonable expectation and ask. However, if your expectations are competing with the Chiefs, going a deep playoff run, it's like, okay, well, then you definitely need to see it before you believe it. And honestly, I need to see it well into the season before I believe that. You could start off 3-0, and some people are going to be saying this team can beat the Chiefs. Well, you beat the Giants, the Jags, and the Jets. Like, let's see how they do against the Browns. Let's see how they do against the Ravens, the Chiefs themselves, et cetera, before that. So I definitely feel you there. Vinny saying he had a long hair husky for 16 years. She was beautiful. Sounds like it. We got Greg Smith in the house. Good morning, fellas.
Aloha.
There we go. Boom. Great to see. We got Travis Weber, DeAndre Witherspoon, and the coaches do better. That is the same, I think. So the coaches got to be better this year as well. I want to get into this comment. Actually, I think it's something that we talked about in here before also when we were very early in the infant stage of this Broncos for Breakfast show, saying What are your thoughts about Bridgewater's comments on Williams being like Alvin Kamara? Did you see that where Teddy?
I did not see that, but I've got some thoughts on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
For me, I was never a huge fan of Alvin Kamara. Honestly, he was from Norcross High School, and you guys have heard me say this a zillion times. 15 minutes from my house. Mm-hmm. I didn't live here when he was at Norcross, though. I think I was still in California. But in my stomping grounds, and he signed as part of that class, I think, with Derrick Henry and several guys at Alabama. He's one of 4 big-time running backs. And my thoughts when he was coming out was he's not going to last there. He's not good enough. He went to Tennessee and had a good career, but that's why he was not as high a draft pick as some might thought. But I honestly think he is a very good player in a very good system. I don't think he is a difference maker that some of these other guys are. I think we'd seen a lot of other players that we could have put in his spot that would have had similar success. I don't think it's all about Alvin Kamara. So while you look at Alvin Kamara's numbers and say, whoa, that's a big comparison for Javonte Williams, I don't think it's a huge reach. Now he's not going to reach the numbers that Alvin Kamara's had, but I don't think he's any less of a running back just because, and that's we talk about biases. My bias goes way back that I think Alvin Kamara is a good player that's a product of a great Sean Payton system and offense. Not necessarily an elite running back. He's having elite production, which is what you care more about. But for the comparison between Javonte Williams and Alvin Kamara, I don't think it's crazy for sure.
I think the body control and like the slipperiness definitely makes sense. The ability to get really low and balancing is incredible.
And being able to get you the ball multiple ways. He's a good receiver. Mm-hmm. So that's part of being in that system is how can I get you the ball where you can be most effective? And Sean Payton's he's had great offenses. He's been fantastic with the Saints.
I guess I will push back a little bit as the receiving option because I thought he did not look natural in the Broncos reps. He had, I think, a couple drops.
No, I mean, I'm just talking about Kamara.
Oh, you're talking
Kamara.
Okay.
Is what makes Kamara so effective is he's a very good receiver. You can get him the ball multiple ways. I'm not saying that because I haven't seen Javonte Williams as much as I've seen Kamara. And Kamara is effective because he's good at everything. And for me, without necessarily being great at anything, but being good at everything makes him a really good piece of the puzzle for a Sean Payton offense.
Yep, absolutely. And that was the big thing I was going to say is Javonte Williams, he may move like Kamara, does not catch like Kamara. And that's the big thing that you're going to have to see change there. Linda from Fort Collins coming in. I love me some good FOCO. You ever been to FOCO?
I've not. I've been from Denver up to the mountains, several different shapes, sizes, and flavors of mountains in Colorado, but I have not been to Fort Collins.
Okay. Well, beautiful place. Home of the Rams, Colorado State, and pretty close to Estes Park as well. So good spot. Mark Knapp coming in. Here's a question for you, Scott. Mm-hmm. Who's a better quarterback today, Teddy Bridgewater or Matt Ryan?
Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
Yep. Matt Ryan is there's a saying I heard a college coach say one time, you lose 10% of your support every year. You stay someplace long enough, you're going to piss enough people off. Something's going to go wrong that you're going to lose just a little bit more. Obviously, that's not the case with everybody. Nick Saban is not losing any support. John Elway got more popular as his career went on. But, there was still an arc in there. Oh, he can't win the big one. But Matt Ryan has been the face of a team that has now gone 3 years without making the playoffs. And there's not enough Falcons fans around like me who remember 40 years of not having back-to-back winning seasons. So Matt Ryan is still a very good quarterback that was a product of really poor roster management from general manager Thomas Dimitroff, but he is still a plus quarterback in this league. He should be in the 10 to 15 range at worst, where I think Teddy is probably in that 15 to 25 range, depending on how he's playing. Now, as we've said before, if you can get 15 to 20 quarterback play with this team with the Denver Broncos, that's a massive improvement over what you had last year. And with the rest of the roster, that turns you into a playoff team. Mm-hmm. But if I'm taking one player for one season right now, it's Matt Ryan over Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, no, even incremental improvement at the quarterback position makes a substantial seismic difference for your roster. It's like improving your house's value by like 20% versus improving how much you paid for a meal by 20%. You know, like you're getting a massive difference in overall output there. We got Keone coming in here saying aloha, guys.
A legit aloha.
A legit aloha.
There's no way. What's that? 6 hours? That's 4 a.m. if you're in Hawaii. So either you're a crazy early person or a crazy late person. But if I'm up at 4 a.m., it's to go to the bathroom for the second time.
I have a friend who works in Honolulu, and the roads there are so congested that people will wake up that early and like drive to the parking garage and sleep in the parking garage and then wake up for work.
Honolulu is nice, but if you go to Hawaii, you want to get out of Honolulu as quick as you can.
Haven't been. Flights from Seattle are pretty cheap.
It's paradise for a reason, but get over to Kauai or Maui, but get off the main island as quick as you can.
Well, there we go. DBA saying good morning. Good to see you, DBA. Awesome to see you. DeAndre also saying hoping we can challenge the Chiefs to the AFC West this season. How about let's just challenge the Chiefs for an AFC West divisional game, right? Like the Broncos have not beaten the Kansas City Chiefs since that Week 2 2015 game, where honestly they probably shouldn't have won. I mean, things happened. That 2015 season was immaculate, almost like divine intervention. But Jamal Charles, Broncos run down and score a touchdown, and then Jamal Charles, all he has to do is hold on to the football. He fumbles it with like no time left, and the Broncos score a touchdown. So, pretty crazy. Peter's saying that we weren't up.
So you're saying that's not a sustainable model for success against the Kansas City Chiefs?
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, but also I think there is power in realizing that things broke your way. And that's like 2015. The Broncos go up against the Steelers in that divisional game. No Antonio Brown. That could break one way or the other.
It's fun how we as fans remember all of our missed opportunities, but fail to remember all of theirs. It's like, he would have caught that cat. That dude was wide open and an interception right in his hand. Well, 6 plays like that happened for them too. Things kind of even out, and the better team generally wins the game.
Yeah. Broncos had a lot go right for them in 2015. And honestly, I think they had a lot go wrong from them in 2013. I mean, what was it? Missing 6 starters on top of Ryan Clady. They should have at least competed with that Seahawks team. But no, here we are. We still got a Super Bowl under Manning as well. And we got Trevor coming in saying he got some Reese Jones-Drew vibes from Williams. What do you say? I think that's a good comparison. I think that I really think that Williams is a little bit more springy than Maurice Jones-Drew. I think the way he can cut laterally, it's just a little bit more slippery. Also, but Maurice Jones-Drew is pretty good running back there.
Well, and maybe it's just my old and don't remember guys, but I picture Maurice Jones-Drew in my mind's eye as being more compact, being shorter and squattier and quicker and almost built more like Barry Sanders than Alvin Kamara. A taller. He's not lean, but definitely leaner. And maybe I'm just mixing up who Maurice Jones-Drew was, but he was definitely a good running back. Saw a question last night in the Mile High Huddle chat about what's the best height for a running back. Well, I think we have enough examples of there is no one size fits all depending on your ability. Normally I think 5'10" to 6 foot. I'm Emmitt Smith, that group. Mm-hmm. But and then you get guys like Derrick Henry coming in and Eddie George. So there's actually, I stood up against Marcus Allen one time. I'm going to name drop. He's 6'2" and about 185 pounds, and he played in 1980. I'm like, if you were coming out now, I would have made you a wide receiver, the way he looks. So he must have been really tall 40 years ago. So, I think that 5'10" to 6'2" range is good. But again, there is no ideal height, weight, and size for these guys, depending on what else they're bringing to the table, because there's so many more ways to skin a cat. So anyway, my thoughts. You can come up with any guys anywhere from 5'7" to 6'3" that have had big time success in this league.
No, absolutely. I love that a lot. I agree with you. Different ways to get it done with the running back position. Michael Ronquillo coming in saying, good morning, Nick and Scott from Broncos for Breakfast. Good morning, Greg Smith. Aloha to Greg Smith. Mm-hmm. And Broncos Country. Go Broncos. We also got Marcus coming in here saying, let's go Broncos Country. This team is stacked. We will be just fine. I am from the St. Louis area. Go Cards. And a big Missouri fan, but Teddy is a little better because of the experience, which leads to better decision-making. But all he has to do is get the ball to playmakers, and everything will be great. Marcus, sounds like you've been listening to the show. Doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. Just do some Rajon Rondo point guarding, and it'll be great. Just get it to the playmakers. Hopefully the playmakers are going to be great there. Let's see. Anybody else coming in here? Blah, blah, blah. Becca Farmer's in the house. I'm into that. Let's just win a game against them. Becca is a friend of mine, so shout out to Becca. Good to see you. Dale Hendricks is in here as well. Morning,
I like this
fellas.
comment from Peter Middleton. The speaking of team turmoil right now, the Houston Texans. Ugh. I mean,
They're gunning for Spencer Rattler, right?
What do you? I mean, they've got to make it. It's untenable right now what they're doing with Deshaun Watson. I don't know when the trade deadline is, but Chad was saying last night, and I haven't actually gone to confirm this, but I got no reason to not believe him, that their depth chart basically has a first, and I don't even know who their first string quarterback is. Tyrod Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Tyrod Taylor, second blank, third blank, other Deshaun Watson. I'm like, there's passive aggressive, and then there's that. That was it's crazy. Peter, thanks for being such a big supporter of Mile High Huddle and everything that we do here. I was watching the leaderboards last night on the stars and the YouTube supers, and your name was always up there, and you helped me out a lot too, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, and also I'm just now realizing I don't think we've had a lot of stars in here, so appreciate the stars. But YouTube folks, what's going on?
Yeah, that's all right.
I don't think we've had any.
We haven't highlighted a super, and it's not because we're ignoring you. Maybe they're broken.
Maybe they're broken.
Maybe they
hate us. Maybe Broncos for breakfast is done. Maybe we're gonna have to move on. But guys, we were gonna talk about the topic today. Stock report. We're 30 minutes in.
We're only 32 minutes in. Let's get to that.
Yeah. So today we're doing a little bit of stocks. We talked about it yesterday. I don't know nothing about stocks, but I can tell you high or lower on these players and how I perceived them coming in. So obviously we came in preseason and had expectations for these guys. And now we've had 3 games, practices, et cetera, of guys with new information that we can analyze. And the dumbest people in the world have their opinion and don't do anything with it, or they dig a deeper hole in spite of new facts. So you don't want to be that. You want to be able to be fluid with your opinion based on new information. So we're going to do that today with the stock report. And I'm going to kick us off here with a stock report for me. A guy, and thank you for the stars. We do have the stars coming in. We have Peter Middleton in here, Gary Leeds Palmer. So thank you guys so much. So that's awesome. Also, guys, getting the stars in for that Von Miller jersey. So shout out to that. But stock report, my number one guy, stock up for me based on what I perceived them coming into the season to where I have them now. Everyone take a seat. Drew Lock. Drew Lock for me is the first one I want to highlight here. I think his stock is way up for me based on I was going off of what he was last season and in college as well. Second round quarterback. We know what that says historically. His data through 18 games. We know what that says historically. But Drew Lock looked really good in most of his starts in the preseason, and he went toe-to-toe with Teddy Bridgewater. And if Drew Lock was a bottom 3 capable quarterback again this season, I don't think you see him going toe-to-toe with Teddy Bridgewater. So, in my opinion, he improved. There's still things that he needs to work on, of course, but I'm excited to see what Drew Lock can do going forward. He's going to get another shot somewhere. He seems like a great guy. Also, he won that interview after Teddy was named the starter, so shout out to him for that. But Drew Lock, for me, stock up. This could have been a competition where he was easily blown out because he struggled, and he didn't. He was there.
Well, what's interesting is after he wasn't named the starter, I should have known better because you're a smart guy. And we think a lot alike on the analytical type of thing. But I was ready to counter with his stock being up. I was ready for someone to say stock down on Drew Lock because he's a second string, lost his starting position. But everything you just said, I agree with. He looked good in the preseason. I thought he looked, when you're based on his numbers last year, you're like, all right, this guy might not be able to complete a pass. No, he looked really good. So we talked a lot about the floor. It was the first time I've heard it. You didn't coin the phrase, but you raised the floor of the quarterback room. So in what I say, just nice and simple, is quarterback play will be better this year. We don't know who it's going to be, but it's going to be better. And that because with Teddy on the team, if Drew beats him out, great. If Teddy's the quarterback, then it's going to be better than it was last year. So I agree with you. I think Drew's stock is actually up despite losing his job, as crazy as that sounds.
Yep. And if you ask, they shall come. Mike Givens with the $5 super over on YouTube. Thank you so much, Mike. If you have any questions also, or if you're just being friendly and helpful there, that means a lot to us. But let's see everybody coming in here. Yeah. People talking about Drew Lock. Mark coming in here with his dogs in the background howling because we're talking about Drew Lock. With all the work Lock needs, was he just not scouted well? I think he was scouted great. 42nd overall pick. Played
Second
18
round
games.
pick, $1 million a year for a quarterback that can start in this league. That's pretty good value.
Yes, it is. There's only four good starting quarterbacks drafted in the last decade that were drafted outside of the first round. Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, and Dak Prescott. So that's a small amount. Most quarterbacks, the league has gotten pretty good at separating the haves versus the have-nots at the position. So I would say overall has outperformed his draft stock. He's still an ascending player. Career's not over. His career in Denver is not over yet. So I'm really leaning into the stock up for Locke based on what I viewed him coming into the game or coming into the season. So need to shout out to him there. And we also shout out Dale Hendricks coming in. Nothing to say, just love to see my name in print. God bless you, Dale. Go Broncos. Mark also coming in with the appreciated. So yeah, let's keep going here. You have a stock up player. I know there's a couple here for you that I didn't want to take because you've put your stamp on them.
No, that's okay. And for me, it's a guy I've talked a lot about already in the preseason, but it's Deshawn Williams, defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman. But I think he's got the ability also with his quickness that you'll see him play outside. He's versatile enough. He's not a Purcell 330 nose guard at times, but he can do that job at 290 pounds. I don't want to sit here and just make Atlanta Falcons comparisons, but this is an easy one. Grady Jarrett, 6 foot, 6'1", 290 pounds, 5th round draft pick out of Clemson. Deshaun Williams, 6'1", 290 pounds. I don't know if he was drafted. I'm not sure he was drafted, but I'm sure it wasn't high. Out of Clemson, a destroyer on the line. You're looking for depth on the defensive line. You're looking for a guy that can come in and get pressure into the backfield. Deshaun Williams has been fantastic. He was my preseason player of the year for the Denver Broncos. Love him. Love the guy.
Yep. Absolutely. So now we probably need to get to, I want to talk to Deshaun Williams too. What do you think his rotation is with this team this year? Because he's kind of a smaller guy. Vic Fangio likes to play it's interesting. There was an article, I think from Ted Nugent, probably mispronounced the last name for the Athletic.
You're awesome with last names. It's probably like Win, it's probably like that Win, Nguwyen, Nugent, Win.
Win. There we go. Boom. I got Okwuegbunam. If I don't have the phonetic in front of me, God bless.
I'll get that one. I'm afraid to say that one. I'm going to call him Albert O.
And Michael Ojemudia.
I'll get it right. I'll do it, but I'm a little nervous about that one right now.
Ted Nguyen. That's definitely it. For the Athletic, he wrote about Vic Fangio's system with the two gapping, the defensive linemen, and how they have to be able to press a single gap, but have responsibility of the other gap. So they press that gap, but have to be able to pull back and play the other gap. And I am curious about Deshaun Williams' size, if he can do that in base and other things that they'd ask of him.
So I'm a big fan of keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
The KISS philosophy, and not trying to get too into the X's and O's and how they make the sausage. But for me, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
In a 3-4, if you got a rotation, he's coming in first down, 3-4, he's on the end. That's rule B. If you're coming in and you're rushing 4-down linemen, let's say you're in pass rushing situations, then you're going to move him inside. You can play him where it's a pass rush situation. Then he can play on the inside and move your speedy guys put him next to Jonathan Cooper at that point, or some speedier guys on the edge. But you can move him inside where he's an interior lineman when you're in pass rushing situations. So for me, that versatility is situational, where he can play inside or outside. But you don't necessarily want him lining up over the center on 1st and 10.
Yeah.
But I'm perfectly happy with him if it's his rotations up and he's lining up at end on 3rd and 8 in the second quarter. I think then you're going to see him make some plays.
No, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. I definitely enjoyed him sticking out. We got Jay coming in and saying, any ideas to do something on my birthday? Jay, I'm not sure what part of the world you are, but for me, it would be go outside and take a nice hike, maybe get a pole in the water, do some fishing, and sit there with my thoughts.
I got an anniversary tomorrow, so my entire goal is just to not be in trouble. That's what I hate to be sexist about this, but what do men want for the ladies that are watching out there? I'm going to give away a secret. What do men want for holidays? We want to not be in trouble. That's it.
No drama.
That's it. I don't want to be in trouble. I want to get through anniversaries, birthdays, holidays without being in trouble. If I accomplish that, I'm good. Anything else is just gravy.
And the ironic part here is somebody clip this, send it to Scott's wife. Bam, he's in trouble. But let's keep it going.
She knows.
Let's keep it going here. Stock down for me. Somebody who I was preaching patience for today. or today, this preseason, but he's left me wanting in preseason, and that is Lloyd Cushingberry. The Broncos, this team this year, I've said it on here many times. I'm a full believer of it, that this team is going to go as far as the offensive line goes. When you don't have an elite quarterback and you're stacked as this Broncos team is, like they already have the top 5, top 3 defense on paper. We'll see. I'm seeing is believing. But this offense, if you want a point guard at quarterback, kind of like, not to poop on anybody, but Baker Mayfield last year or Dak Prescott early in his career, where the offensive lines were absolutely stacked, and the quarterback could just go out there and not even have to worry about pressure. You're getting like 5 yards of carry. The running backs are making it easy because the offensive line is dominating so much, not to take away from Nick Chubb or Ezekiel Elliott during those years. But for me, it's the offensive line. They need to be great, top 10 unit if this team is going to really make a deep run in the playoffs or make the playoffs. And a lot of that starts with center up front, especially the interior offensive line if you're going to run block. And Cushionberry has left me wanting. That there haven't been snap issues. He's a smart player, but he's bullied too often. He's not an aggressor. And that mentality, I worry about it matriculating through the rest of the offensive line. So it's year 2 for Cushionberry, hoping for a big step up. But I think he's on notice. He's somebody who could be benched, and probably not for Quinn Miners. If that happens, you probably see, based on what Fangio said, you probably see Graham Glasgow slide over to center, probably. But Cushionberry's stock down for me. I had hopes to see a second-year jump, and I think he has improved, but not to the extent that this team needs, and I had hoped.
It's hard for me to do stock down on some of these guys because I don't have a basis, I don't have a baseline to say, okay, this is what I was expecting. Because I came into this with no expectations, as to having not watched them nearly as extensively as last year. But particularly in the second game against, was it the Seahawks? The Seahawks was the second game.
Yeah,
help me out here. Is that right? I thought Muti was pretty poor on the offensive line. And when you're looking for guys to push into those spots, I thought he had a bad game. I don't know if that was he out of position? I don't want to make excuses. I don't want to get on him too much without all the information. Like I said, I'm going to have some trouble with the stock down guys. But when I was looking at guys like, okay, who could push for a starting role in these lines, and I'm watching him, I was like, it ain't that guy.
Yeah. And we said it on here really early in the season, Broncos, everyone's excited about the personality of Quinn Miners, the gut out there lifting logs in some Wisconsin forest, probably like punching bass out of lakes up there or whatever the heck they do. But definitely drinking some New Glarus. But we always said, be patient. Didn't play center in college. First time he ever snapped a football or in reps was at the Senior Bowl. It was always going to take time.
Quinn Miners met my expectations. Exactly. When I was watching him, he was the center when Locke came in, and he had a little trouble with his exchange. That's to be expected. But once that got cleared up, it was almost like I watched him one time where it was like he was concentrating so much on the center that he was a little late getting up, and the nose guard got right into him and bent him back. So there's a half step back right off the snap. But then as soon as he adjusted, he's driving guys. So the man is a people mover. That's what he does. It's just going to take time for him to get acclimated to all of the nuances of an NFL offense, as opposed to just see that guy, move him out of the way, which is what you could get away with on the collegiate level. But I think he's going to be a very, very good pro for Denver. And he adds some valuable experience because you can keep it simple enough for even a rookie. I don't necessarily want him as center. No. But helping out at the guard spots during the season. We're going to see him play some this year.
Yeah, and Doug coming in, any chance we could pick up OL still? And I think our guy Peter was also talking about, do you need an OL trade, to be honest, or not wowing anyone? I think at this point you've made your bed because how much offensive line is chemistry and communication and cohesion and synergy. I'll throw in all of these business buzzwords here. But
put a pin in that.
Yeah, put a pin in that one. But yeah, no, that's the one that I think probably not going to see a trade for an offensive line. You need the guys who are here to gel and improve and be the dudes, especially with the center being the linchpin of the line. That's probably the weakest position on the offensive line right now. I think Bobby Massey, you're going to get good enough. And Andre, remember, the Broncos had Jared Veldier. He wasn't amazing, but he solidified that right tackle position for a year. I think you're going to get that with Bobby Massey as well. But go ahead.
I think you're more likely on the waiver wire right now to find somebody if you can get a veteran, especially somebody that's trying to save a little salary cap room. I know that's not quite the season for that.
Yeah.
But I think you're better off. Again, the in-season trades are they're tough. It happens. It happened with Trinity Benson. We see a lot of it, but I almost feel like you've got as much chance of getting somebody off the waiver wire as you do for, okay, I'm going to send this guy a 6th-round pick. Well, if he's only worth a 6th-round pick, why bother? I can probably get a guy for free that's just as good as him. So these rosters aren't done. And frankly, there's injuries all the time.
Yep.
So we're going to see some movement on the offensive line sooner rather than later.
Yep. So you'll see some shuffling there. And it does sound like they want to get Moody out there. Moody just needs to, again, another thing we've said on here, we have so many shows that we're not changing our opinions that much, that slow, glacially gathering new information. But while Moody is a butt kicker in the run game, he has way too many gaffes in pass protection. And while it's great to have the run game guy blasting open holes, I'd rather have somebody who's just okay in the run game, run blocking, opening up holes, but a steady Eddie in pass protection, because that one bad pass snap can end a season, end a drive, kill you. All it takes is one whiff and in a pass protection, and you're talking about the ball going the other way. Not necessarily the case with the run game blocking. You're just going to get more stagnated.
You're going to get yelled at by your running back and your offensive line coach, but not necessarily sending somebody to the hospital.
Yep, exactly. And way less likely to have turnovers, which is the biggest thing here. White Lightning coming in here. They did not call me that in high school. Coming in here with $5 super over on YouTube. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate you, White Lightning. Thank you so much for supporting the show. It means a lot to us. Obviously, we know that times are tough out there, but if you guys are supporting us like that, it really does help keep the lights on. So that's probably should have done that or one of those just to make the joke in there. Keith Brugman coming in here. Keith have been pretty recent new supporter of the show, but coming in hot and heavy, and we love it, Keith. Thank you so much for all your support over on Facebook. What makes an offensive line such a difficult position to get quality starters? Seems like it's a battle for every team every year. Scott, I'll punt this one to you. I do have some takes as well, but I'm curious.
Yeah, while I've said that guys that are 6'3", 300 pounds are a dime a dozen, that's still not necessarily the case. Those are still massive human beings. To get guys that are that big that can move on that level is still a fairly rare human being. And you need 1,500, you need 150 of them. And probably 250 of them once you start talking about depth and injuries, across the NFL. So when you think about what it takes, I don't know if you've ever stood up next to an offensive lineman. I've got on our baseball team, got a guy that is an 8-year pro, one of the dads, and their backs, they're amazing. I've said people, I was like, when you get around some of these NFL guys and you see them in person, I've always said, if we have an alien invasion, I'm going to get behind that guy. It makes me feel good for the human race that we're going to be all right. So you take that into account. Then take into account that the other 6'3", 300-pound guys that are better athletes, where they are? Defense. They're on the other side of the ball. So if you are big and mobile, you're on defense. And if you're not good enough to play defense, then they move you over to offensive line. That's just the way it is. I kind of joked when I'd go to these camps and watch the high school kids. They put the defense in one color jersey, so we'll say black, and they put the offensive guys in white jerseys and move them over here. And I used to say, okay, this is how we're going to separate the teams. Big fast guys over here, big fat guys over here. So not only are you trying to find a guy who's good enough to do that, but you're also having to block guys who are better athletes that are the same size as you. And that's why you get 5 guys against 4 and you get overwhelmed. But and plus the injury factor as you're going in there and doing battle on every single snap, that you need the depth in there. So just some of the reasons why it's hard to build quality offensive line depth is, one, that's a special human being we're talking about at that type of size and athleticism. And 2, they're battling against guys that are just as big and probably better athletes on every snap.
Yep. I agree 100%. It's also there's a couple other things I want to get in here. One being the game of college football. The transition from college to the pros is probably, quarterbacks, it's become, I guess, a lesser learning curve. But for NFL, like going from these air raid teams or these spread offenses to the college game. I mean, the techniques they're learning. You don't have many teams that are coaching, college teams that have the quality offensive line coaches, but are coaching the schemes where these guys are as ready made.
And we're just talking about physical development, of the players. You get a 21-year-old kid. I don't care how good he is. 99 out of 100 of them they're going to get their asses beat by 30-year-old men that have been in the league for 9 years.
Yep.
I said, again, going back to the recruiting days, I always said, especially on the offensive line, that a year of development was worth half a star. How does Boise State beat USC with all those 5 stars? Because they're running out 23-year-old men against 19-year-olds.
Yep.
That's how. A 3-star offensive lineman that you're able to bring in that's a 5th-year guy, he's a 5.5-star player going against your 5-star. And, they've got 5 of them across the line. So it's the grown man philosophy in the trenches is a big deal. The speed, when we were talking about running backs being able to play earlier, skill players are born. A 220-pound running back who's 19 years old, he's about as good as he's ever going to be right then. He'll learn more nuances and stuff, but physically he's at the top of his game.
Yep.
Linemen, 25 to 35. That's their prime years.
Yeah, but the skill position, even though it takes a special athlete, it is a skill. It's a very skilled position. And the other thing I wanted to get at for the offensive line is defenses can dictate and scheme up where pressure is going to be focused towards. So the offensive line is very much a weakest link type of thing. If you have one, let's say your right tackle is absolutely terrible, guess what? I can put Von Miller over that right tackle every single snap. And I'm going to change how you have to call your entire game. I'm going to change the type of pass plays you can do, the protections you can do, how you send out guys, et cetera, et cetera. So it very much, you can have a Hall of Famer left tackle on one side. If you have crap, replacement level on the other side, it'll help a little bit because you can shift that without worrying as much about the left tackle, but it's going to kill you still. So that's why it's so hard to get 5, maybe even 7 guys. There we go. 7. That's how many 7 is. Consistently that are solid, that are not going to kill you. It's so hard to do. I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's so hard to do.
The offensive football is the greatest team aspect of any sport, any major sport. You've got to have 11 guys do their job or a play can blow up. Mm-hmm. Where on defense, you can have one guy make a play and 10 guys can fall down and you get a positive play. So, I've told this story before, but, we're getting into the season. We got a lot of new viewers. And when I first started talking to kids about where they were going to college, these high school guys were playing both sides of the ball. And I asked him, I said, what do you like playing better? He said, defense. I was like, really? I said, why? He goes, because I can end the play. I dictate the play on defense. I'm like, that makes sense. I think football is the greatest team game there is. And if you've ever gone to an all-star game or anything like that and watched the offense practice for that week, it's ugly. It's horrible. And that's why you have to put in special rules to limit the defense and what they're allowed to do, because, again, it is hard to play offense. And that's why every single rule the last 10 years has gone towards the offense to make it better. And once it takes time to get humming, and once they get going, it's pretty tough. But it's the ultimate team game, and it's the ultimate team aspect is playing offensive football.
Yeah, if you guys listening out there have any kids who are playing middle school or high school football, if they're a defensive line and they look like they're going to be 6'4" to 6'6" with 33+ inch arm length, and they're playing defensive line, get them on the offensive line, get them at tackle. And if you have a wide receiver or a guy who's a wide receiver, hands maybe not the best, but he's 5'10" to 6 foot and moves well, get him over to cornerback. We don't have enough good cornerbacks. They're all playing wide receiver. We don't have enough good tackles. They're all playing defensive line. You can make some money if you're flipping. That's what's again, everybody drink your coffee, I guess, for the morning show. Iowa Hawkeye, #1 center in football, for college football for a lot of people. Oh my gosh, Linderbaum, who's going to be probably a first-round pick. He was a defensive tackle.
I bet he wrestled.
Oh, he actually beat Tristan Wirfs in
Iowa
State
Championship Wrestling. I love them. When I was scouting guys, I love those cross-sport athletes, and the wrestlers were my favorite.
He is a wrestler. He's a very good wrestler. He's also the Iowa State hay bale chucking champion right now. So God bless him. He played defense tackle, moved over to the center, and he's going to be making a lot of money playing offensive line in the league for a long time. So get into that. I want to also get to the rest of the stock up and stock down, since we haven't talked much about it. It's been good conversation. So what can you do? I also want to have a stock up. I'll keep this one short and simple. Eric Saubert, stock up for me. He looked really good in camp. The Broncos were using him a lot. He's taken a while to develop into this player because he came from Drake, another Iowa college there in Des Moines, private school, the Bulldogs. But he's kicked around the league for a little bit. I think he was drafted by the Falcons, played for the Jags. Now he's in Denver, and he's looked good in preseason. Now, could it be a flash in the pan? Maybe, but I thought his blocking has been really good. He's shown soft hands. He's not the best athlete in the world, but he's big. He looks like he can find soft spots in the zone and can get open in that regard. So Saubert has impressed me. I am really curious to see if he's actually going to be the tight end to beating out Albert Okwuegbunam. And I said the name right, so I just need the phonetically.
I'm going to have to record it and play that back. I do that Google guys' names and see how they're called. You just don't want to Akubunum. I don't remember what he called him on Sunday. It was awful. Or on Saturday. I watched the game on Tuesday, so I don't know what day they played. And for me, I said my biggest surprise of the camp was probably Jonathan Cooper. Positive surprise. 7th round pick, and he just looked awesome. He was great. His first step, the violence of his hands in dispatching people, I didn't expect that. Even at his best, I didn't expect that. And it's a small sample size. It's preseason, but the early returns are very, very good.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. So both those guys, I also had Cooper written down as maybe a stock up guy, but both of them, low expectations, almost no expectations coming. I mean, we were talking about maybe because Cooper had all those heart surgeries, maybe he doesn't even play in preseason, and you put him on the IR for the season, give him a redshirt year, and we talk about him next year. Well, that's not the case. Cat's out of the bag. He looked really good. Talking about looking good. Butch coming in here with the stars. Thank you so much, Butch. But shout out to Cooper for that. Also, I want to give a shout out to myself for Cooper. We did the live mock draft show the day before the week before before the actual draft, and had some arguments on there. But Jonathan Cooper was sitting on the board in the 5th round, I think it was. I'm like, listen, this guy dominated the Senior Bowl, super intelligent, Ohio State. I know he has the heart concerns, but you're talking about a 5th round pick at edge who probably is worth talent wise, I think he's a top 50 caliber talent. Take this guy. We had some arguments about it. We ended up taking Cooper because I swayed everybody into it. So we should pull that up clip because I'm going to sound smart, hopefully, years from now. Stock down for me. This one really hurts me to say. It really hurts. And you guys know that I really try not to be biased on here. Everybody's biased to some extent. But when it comes to the Iowa Hawkeyes, I am biased. Everyone drink. I'm going to say stock down on Noah Fant. Dealing with another small injury, which he's had multiple times. You know how many targets Noah Fant had in preseason?
I don't care about preseason, though. I mean, it's... I don't know. I've watched so many of these teams protect their players. I mean, do you know how many carries Travis Etienne had in preseason?
0. 2. Okay, well, the Broncos
2 for those of you listening. He had 2. He had 2 carries and still got hurt. I mean, is he being held out? Is he being protected, or is he not participating? Do we know for sure? Really?
We don't know. But the one is, I think the context matters here for the Broncos because they were not so much protecting their players. I mean, they played their starters in that week 3 game. You saw Teddy and Drew out there for a long time. You saw Cortland Sutton and Von Miller coming off injuries playing. I think that's for some teams like the Rams. Oh, we didn't see Matt Stafford at all. Okay, well, you didn't see anybody at all. The Broncos, they were playing starters. They were trying to execute, and they were really executing game plans to try to evaluate these quarterbacks. Noah Fant got 0 targets, and that upsets me to say because I'm a big Noah Fant fan. He's also now dealing with another injury, sounds like a leg injury. I'm not super worried with Noah. I think he's still going to be a good player, but he needs to be better than good for a 1st round pick at tight end. And I don't have Kyle Pitts expectations for him, but you're still talking about a 1st round pick at tight end. That's a big Kyle Pitts. Good player.
Heard of him.
Freakazoid talking about if the aliens came down, we had to have a battle royale. I might be taking Pitts along with an offensive lineman. But stock down for me on Noah Fant just because he's was hyped up all preseason, year 3 for the tight end. He's going to be big this year. 0 targets, didn't see anything. And also in camp, it didn't sound like he was dominating as well. And now dealing with another potentially nagging injury. So I guess I'm more bummed than anything to even have to say that because I'm a big Noah Fant fan.
Disappointed and a little concerned.
Yes.
I have concerns.
Yep.
Did we get Lord Deer? Did that sneak by? I don't remember hitting
this one right now.
Hitting Lord Deer, yeah.
This just came up.
Oh, it just came in. Okay. It popped up in a different spot for me. I was like, okay. So much negativity. We had 5 wins, folks. Roster is stronger. Let's wait till we see the team. So much negativity. We had 5 win, folks. 9+ would be progress, and we should be happy. For sure. I think 9+. You put 10 wins on the board. I think it's going to be for the most part. You're never going to hit 100%, but I think the majority will be very happy with 9 or 10 wins this season, especially if you see see progress going the right direction. I agree. Appreciate you in Canada, Lord Deer. Is an easy one to say Jerry Jeudy, stock up. I don't think we've hit on that one, and that was a pretty obvious one. I almost feel like we're that one's cherry picking.
Yep.
He had a very good preseason. Hands look sharp. And what was interesting is he seemed to be the go-to guy for both quarterbacks when they got in trouble. Where's your security blanket? Where's the guy I need when my reads aren't necessarily there? Where's Jerry Jeudy? I played soccer like that. I'm like, you know what I did? Get the ball to Kenneth. Kenneth played on the Sweden junior national team. When I was in trouble in the back, find Kenneth. Jerry Judy's becoming that guy on for the Broncos. Stock up. And we don't have to say too much on that one. That was an easy one.
Yeah. Take him in fantasy football, folks. Bye. Peter, real quick, because we have a few more guys we want to get to. At least I do. Peter Middleton, any top 10 2021 draft players or first rounds not having a good preseason? Penny Sewell had a pretty poor preseason over there at right tackle. He looked overwhelmed. Maybe it's the rust from the year off. Maybe it's the switch from left tackle to right tackle. Penny Sewell did not look great. I'm not worried about him long term, but it's kind of he had the preseason, which a lot of the Tristan Wirfs detractors had for him, where it's like, oh man, this guy looks like a guard. He's playing too aggressive forward, blah, blah, blah. He's going to end up being a guard, not a good tackle. Those guys ended up looking foolish for that. But Penny Sewell's one who's like, oh man, maybe he's a guard. You're gonna have to let him suss out at the right tackle to figure how it goes. But that's one who didn't play well. Also, Jamar Chase had a very bad preseason, and that is both on and off the field. I don't know if you saw the stuff with his baby mama, with claims of him laying hands on her, with all the drops as well. So watch out for him. That's one that want to watch out for. Yeah, here we go. Mark saying the morning show has very little negativity. I love it. Yeah, guys, this is a good vibes show.
We call that a caffeinated bliss is how I like to refer to it. Right before my coffee, I'm like, man, I don't want to do anything. And it's like, hey, life's great. We're good. This is about as crazy as I get these days. Just a little extra coffee.
Yep.
Peter, Caleb Farley was getting some getting some toughness questions. There's definitely some extenuating circumstances there, but one of the reports I read in talking with David Beauclair, who runs a Titan site on SI, I had him on just a preview, and he got after it for hanging his head, putting his shoulders down, and he needs to be out there with his hair on fire. Now that he's cleared and getting out there again, the injuries that he's gone through, being out there should be a blessing. Mostly, though, what the guys that I've heard about are, the ones that are doing really well. You mentioned Jason Odafeoway. You said that he was getting some good reports. I hadn't followed up on that, but he was a guy that was raving about the preseason. Just take a chance on this, just because of that athleticism, if nothing else.
Yeah. Yep. No, he's been killing. He's been a gunner for them. Absolutely insane.
I believe it. I've told you the guy would make a cornerback blush, and he was 6'5", 260.
Yep, he is. He's in the 1% of NFL athletes, right? Those guys are already in the 0.1% of.
I said it, and there's so much hyperbole in this, and I'm not one for hyperbole. I'm usually a conservative type, under promise, over deliver. And I said about Oway, the second he puts on an NFL helmet, he's one of the best athletes in the league. The second that happens, from the bigger, faster, stronger standpoint, there's not going to be 10 guys that are going to beat him in those combine measurements. There's just not. And that's just crazy to think.
Yeah. And guys, this is all authentic Scott here. No Irish coffee going on. We're stone cold sober. I mean, caffeine's dripping through the veins and excitement about football.
I actually have 21 years of sobriety coming up in a month.
Yep, 21 years. I didn't want to share that with the world if you didn't.
No, I was a mean drunk. So if this was Irish, I'd be complaining about everything.
Good vibes.
This early in the morning, I might at least be coherent. By 3:00 in the afternoon, not so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, and a couple of other guys stock up for me. We saw him flash a bit McTelvin Najim, I thought he looked pretty good. I don't want to stay too long because the defensive tackle class or for this Broncos team was good, but I feel pretty good about McTelvin Najim going forward as a rotational piece. He didn't play hardly at all last year, and now we saw flashes of him, so he's going to belong, even if he's rotational. That back end of the 3rd round pick, that's fine for the interior defensive line. And so that's a stock up for me. And my last stock down, and somebody who actually, I wonder if the writing's on the wall for them. We'll see how the season plays out. Alexander Johnson, AJ Johnson, whatever he wants to go by. In that 3rd preseason game, he was taken off the field for Josie Jewell and sub packages. I thought in that Seattle game, he was caught with bad eyes and leaning the wrong direction multiple times. And he's in a contract year, and the Broncos have Baron Browning and Justin Strnad. So I think that Alexander Johnson, after his first year with Denver, everybody, or second year, I guess, with Denver, first year starting, everyone's like, oh man, this guy, top 10 guy, he's massive. He's great at Tennessee, blah, blah, blah. He's kind of been stagnant after that. I think he's already going to be 30 years old. Also, he's older for a guy who's just playing his 3rd year in the NFL. So a little bit of stock down for me, Alexander Johnson. He's fine. He's going to get plenty of reps, yada, yada. But you're just hoping that he would be a little bit better than what I saw on tape from him in preseason reps.
So 2 things before we get out of here. One, I said 21 years since I'm getting some congratulations. I want to correct myself. It's actually 24 years. Tomorrow is my 21st anniversary. Next month is 24 years of sobriety. That's not a coincidence. That those 2 are going together. That's not a coincidence. The other one, I want to bring it full circle because one of my stock up guys got cut yesterday. And we wanted to talk about him a little bit. We were a little surprised, but Royce Freeman looked great in the preseason. He was running hard. He was running like a 225, 230-pound running back. Learn how to run hard. And then he was cut, which that part isn't necessarily surprising. But the guy they brought in, Nate McGrary from Prairie View or South Saginaw or somewhere, and you think, okay, well, maybe he's one of these freak of nature guys that rush for 4,000 yards in a season down there. But, his numbers weren't even all that overwhelming. I'm like, okay, well, maybe he's a really good receiver. Click. He had 12 catches in his career in college. So that move seems a little strange to me. I don't quite understand it. But we're not privy to all of the information. But it just seemed if Royce was cheap, he knows the system. He was on $1 million. That's a lot for us, but that's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of an NFL football roster. So I thought he was stock up, and I immediately thought of him the second I saw the Travis Etienne news. I'm like, if I was over in Jacksonville, I'd be making a call to Royce Freeman right now. So he'll be fine, but that one surprised me because he was a stock up guy for me. Now he's gone. Nice job, Scott.
Yep. I guess I will say the one thing is it's special teams. If you're going to be a 3rd or 4th string running back and you don't bring anything to special teams, sorry. That's the reality of it. So he was good. I wish the Broncos could have traded him for maybe even a conditional 7th round pick, but that is what it is. Royce is going to land on his feet somewhere, probably be a number 2 running back. But McCray apparently is a very good special teams player. And Royce Freeman brings nothing to special teams. So it's probably that simple. It probably really is that simple. So guys, thank you everybody for joining us today. We went an hour and 8 minutes. Pretty good for a Thursday morning show. Want to give a shout out to White Lightning, Dale Hendricks, and Mike Givens for the super chats. And Michael coming in with the stars. Peter Middleton coming in with the stars. We had some other ones too. Somebody with double last names. I don't always see the stars on this side. Oh, Lord Deer also at the super chat. Thank you very much. Butch with the stars. Thank you so much. I think Gary Leeds Palmer with the stars as well. If I'm missing anybody else, I'm sure Peter is going to call it out here to give me a heads up on who else had stars. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. You guys can follow Scott and myself on Twitter, Scott at Scout Kennedy, and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. While you guys are over on Twitter, also follow us at Mile High Huddle. If you guys are joining us on Facebook today, first, let's get the thumbs up in here. Let's get a heart react. We got a wow from Jacob Cervantes and Victor Rios. We got a haha from Keith Brugman and Peter Middleton. And we got a lot of hearts. Ken Booker, Donnie Jerome, Jason O'Neill, Becca Farmer, Greg Smith, Joseph T. Fisher, Dave Glassman, and Gary Leeds Palmer. And a lot of likes as well. So if you guys could do us a big favor, if you are joining us on Facebook today, give us some sort of reaction. Helps a lot. Also, make sure you share the show wherever you're on social media. Follow us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. If you guys are joining us on YouTube today, subscribe, like, and share. And also follow Scott at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. I'm going to drop also his link here in the chat. You guys just have to click that link right there. It'll take you right to it. Be sure to smash those likes and share those hearts, guys. And thank you everybody for the time. We will see what happens with the next week. I guess we'll have to figure out some new topics with no new football to talk about.
It's a bye week, but it feels like things are busier than ever. And they are. If you're in the front office right now, you're as busy as you've been since draft day.
Yep, and we can talk a lot of New York Giants, which will be fun as well. Start breaking down other teams. I really love doing the scouting kind of stuff for the other teams and kind of breaking down like where are they weaker, what are the concepts, etc.
If y'all are interested, I could probably line us up some guests from the New York Giants side of things to answer some questions too. That's something I just sprung on Nick just now. Sorry about that, but we're fairly like-minded, and I think there's room for it where we can do some guest appearances too for some guys. So we'll see. There's plenty to do. The season is here.
Yeah, and before we get on out of here, also want to give a shout out to everybody in the chat. I saw some comments today about appreciate this chat not being negative and toxic and everything like that. And I've seen, not specifically Mile High Huddle, but just social media in general right now, a lot of toxicity and small anatomy type of behavior going on from people out there. And I do not get that vibe at all. We got a lot of BDE in the chat going on here. So appreciate you guys for being civil and being very well, grounded and just, good people. So shout out to the chat, making this a lot of fun. Honestly, you guys really are what makes this fun and safe. So God bless y'all. We will see you guys again next Tuesday. I'll see you on Saturday and stay safe until then. Go Broncos.